The storm wasn't just outside. It felt like it was trying to break into Blackwood Castle. Thunder rattled the ancient stained-glass windows, and the wind howled like a pack of dying wolves. I stood in the grand hallway clutching my medical bag to my chest. My name is Elena Vance. I am 23 years old, a top-tier medical student at Oxford, and currently, I am drowning in debt. My younger sister needed surgery that the National Health Service put on a 2-year waiting list. She didn't have 2 years, so I took the job no one else wanted. "He's in a mood today," the head housekeeper, Mrs. Higgins, whispered, her face pale. She handed me a heavy iron key. The last nurse left in tears. The one before that left with a bruise on her arm. "Be careful, dear." "I'm not afraid of bad tempers, Mrs. Higgins," I lied. "I need this paycheck." "It's the West Wing." She pointed to the dark corridor that smelled of damp stone and neglect. "Don't look him in the eye if you can help it. And whatever you do, don't mention the leg." I nodded, took a deep breath, and walked into the darkness. The West Wing was freezing. The heating had been turned off, or maybe the cold was radiating from the master of the house himself. I reached the heavy oak doors at the end of the hall. I didn't knock. Knocking gave him time to tell me to go away. I pushed the doors open. The room was cavernous, lit only by the dying embers of a fireplace. It smelled of aged whiskey, old leather, and the metallic copper tang of infection. "Get out!" The roar came from the shadows near the window. It was a voice deep enough to vibrate in my ribcage. Before I could speak, a crystal tumbler flew through the air. It smashed against the stone wall, inches from my head, showering me with shards of glass and amber liquid. I didn't flinch. I didn't scream. I stood my ground. "That was a waste of good Scotch, Your Grace," I said, my voice steady, cutting through the gloom. Silence. A figure moved in the chair by the window. "You're new," the voice growled. "And stupid. Didn't they tell you I throw things?" "They did. I just assumed a duke would have better aim." I stepped further into the room, my shoes crunching on the broken glass. I walked straight to the curtains and ripped them open. Gray afternoon light flooded the room. The man in the chair hissed like a vampire exposed to the sun, shielding his face with his arm. "Close them," he shouted. "No," I said calmly, setting my bag on the dusty table. "I need light to see the patient, and frankly this room smells like a crypt. You need fresh air." I turned to look at him, and for the first time I saw the beast of Blackwood. Adrian Blackwood was terrifying. He was massive, his broad shoulders straining against a white dress shirt that was unbuttoned and stained. His dark hair was long and wild, but it was his face that made people look away. A jagged, angry scar ran from his temple, slicing through his eyebrow, down his cheek, and disappearing into his jawline. It was the mark of the car crash that had killed his parents and crippled him. He was glaring at me with eyes the color of a stormy sea. One pupil was blown wide, the other narrowed in rage. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded. "Elena, I'm your new nurse." "I didn't hire a nurse. I fired the last one. Get out." "I can't do that, Your Grace. I've already spent the advance payment." I walked towards him. He tried to stand to intimidate me with his height, but his leg gave out. He collapsed back into the chair with a groan of agony he tried to suppress. I looked down at his leg. It was propped up on an ottoman wrapped in filthy bandages. The smell of rot was coming from there. "It's infected," I noted clinically. "It's fine," he gritted out. "Leave it." "If I leave it," I said, snapping on my latex gloves with a sharp snap, "the infection will spread to the bone. Osteomyelitis, then sepsis. Then in about 3 days you'll go into septic shock and die. Or—" I leaned down, resting my hands on the arms of his chair, trapping him. I looked him dead in the eye. "Or the doctors will come in with a bone saw and cut it off at the thigh. Is that what you want, Adrian? Do you want to be a one-legged duke?" His eyes widened. No one spoke to him like that. Everyone tiptoed around the tragedy. I just slapped him in the face with it. "You insolent little—" He started, his hand shooting out to grab my throat. He stopped inches from my skin. He didn't touch me. His hand hovered there, trembling. He wanted to hurt me. He wanted to scare me away like all the others. I didn't blink. "Go ahead. Choke me. Then explain to the police why you murdered the only person trying to save your leg." He stared at me for a long, agonizing moment. Then slowly he lowered his hand. The fight drained out of him, replaced by a weary, crushing pain. Just get it over with, he muttered, turning his head away. I got to work. I peeled back the dirty bandages. The wound was angry red and oozing. It looked painful beyond belief. I need to clean this, I said, my voice softening. It's going to hurt. I know what pain is, he scoffed. I took the antiseptic. I began to clean the wound. Adrian gripped the arms of his chair so hard the wood creaked. His knuckles turned white. Sweat beaded on his forehead. But he didn't make a sound. He refused to show weakness to a stranger. I worked quickly but gently. My hands moved with precision. I could feel his gaze on me. He was watching me work, watching my face. You have steady hands, he murmured, his voice rough. Surgeon's hands, I replied, not looking up. I applied a cooling salve. His muscles relaxed slightly under my touch. Why are you doing this? He asked suddenly. Doing what? My job. Staying. I threw a glass at you. I threatened you. You should be running for the hills. I paused, wrapping a fresh white bandage around his calf. I looked up at him. He was studying me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. He wasn't looking at me like a servant. He was looking at me like a puzzle. I need the money, I said honestly. My sister is sick. I'd walk through hell to save her. So you walked into mine, he concluded. Your hell is messy, your grace, I said, tying off the bandage. But it's fixable. I stood up and began to pack my bag. I'll be back tomorrow to change the dressing. In the meantime, drink water, no whiskey, and try not to throw any more crystal. It's expensive. I turned to leave. Wait. I stopped. What is your name again? Elena. Elena. He tested the name on his tongue. His voice dropped an octave, becoming something darker, more intimate. You missed a spot. I frowned, turning back. Where? He pointed to his cheek, the scarred one. There was a small smear of blood near the scar, probably from when he wiped his face earlier. I can't reach it, he lied. He could perfectly reach it. I sighed and walked back to him. I took a piece of clean gauze. I reached out to wipe his cheek. My fingers brushed against the raised, jagged skin of his scar. Most people flinched at the sight of it. I didn't. I traced the line of it gently. He froze. He leaned into my touch, his eyes fluttering shut for a fraction of a second. It was a moment of raw vulnerability, a beast being petted. Does it hurt? I whispered. Not the scar, he breathed, opening his eyes. They were burning now. The way you look at it hurts. How am I looking at it? Like it's not there. He reached up and caught my wrist. His hand was large, calloused, and hot. His thumb pressed against my pulse point. My heart kicked against my ribs. You are dangerous, Elena, he whispered. You don't fear the monster that will get you killed one day. Or, I pulled my hand away gently, it might save the monster. I walked to the door. My legs were shaking, but I didn't let it show. See you tomorrow, Adrian, I said. I closed the heavy doors behind me. I leaned against them, sliding down to the floor, clutching my chest. My heart was racing a mile a minute. I had survived the first encounter, but I had a feeling the real danger wasn't his temper. It was the way he looked at me when I touched his scar. Like a man starving for a touch he felt he didn't deserve. I returned the next day, and the day after that. For 2 weeks I waged a silent war against the infection in Adrian's leg. I changed bandages, forced him to take antibiotics, and bullied him into eating soup instead of drinking scotch for dinner. He hated it. He grumbled, he glared, he insulted my bedside manner, but he let me do it. Slowly the West Wing began to change. I opened windows, I lit fires, I cleared away the empty bottles. The crypt started to look like a home again, and Adrian changed too. The fever broke, the color returned to his face. He started shaving, though he still left the scar untouched. He started watching me, not with rage, but with a brooding curiosity. Then came the letter. It arrived on a silver tray with the morning coffee, a thick cream-colored envelope with a royal seal. Adrian tore it open. He scanned the contents, his face darkening with every line. Damn them, he cursed, crumpling the letter in his fist. Vultures, the lot of them. Bad news, I asked, pouring his coffee. My grandmother, he spat. The Dowager Duchess. She's invoked the inheritance clause. If I am not married by my 30th birthday, the title and the estate pass to my cousin Leopold. Leopold? A gambler and a drunk. He'll sell this castle for scrap and turn the land into a golf course. Adrian threw the crumpled ball into the fire. My birthday is in 2 months. So, get married, I said, buttering a toast. He looked at me as if I had suggested he fly to the moon. To whom? Look at me, Elena. Who would marry the beast of Blackwood? The women of the ton are terrified of me, or they only want the title. I won't be sold like a prize horse. Maybe you should try being nicer, I suggested dryly. Less throwing glasses, more smiling. He snorted. I don't smile. He stared into the fire, the flames reflecting in his stormy eyes. Then slowly his head turned. He looked at me. It was a predatory look, calculating, assessing, like a wolf deciding if the rabbit was worth the chase. You, he said. I froze the toast halfway to my mouth. Me what? You're not afraid of me. I'm terrified of you, I corrected. I just hide it well. You need money. He continued, ignoring me. Your sister needs surgery. It costs 50,000 pounds, doesn't it? How do you know that? I make it my business to know who I let into my house. He stood up. His leg was healing well enough that he could walk with a cane now. He limped towards me, the thump step rhythm echoing in the quiet room. He stopped at the table, looming over me. I have a proposition. I'm a nurse, Adrian, not a wife, he interrupted. I need a wife, a fake wife. Someone to wear the ring, stand by my side at the gala, and sign the papers. In exchange, I pay for your sister's surgery, plus her recovery, plus your tuition. My heart skipped a beat. It was everything I needed, my sister's life, my future, handed to me on a silver platter. But the price? You want me to marry you, I whispered. Ideally, yes. Practically, it's a business arrangement, 6 months, until the inheritance is secure. Then we divorce quietly. You walk away rich. I keep my home. And what do I have to do? Live here. Pretend to tolerate me. Smile for the cameras. He leaned down, placing his hands on the table, trapping me in my chair. And convince the world that you tamed the monster. That's impossible. Everyone knows you hate people. That's why it has to be you, he murmured, his voice dropping to a husky whisper. You're the only one who looks at my scar and doesn't flinch. You're the only one who touches me without shaking. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered on my neck. It was a calculated move designed to test my reaction. I didn't pull away. I looked up into his eyes. What about marital duties? I asked, my voice trembling. Adrian smirked. It wasn't a nice smirk. It was dark and dangerous. I don't force women, Elena. My bed is cold, and it will stay that way, unless... His thumb brushed my lower lip. You beg me to warm it up. I slapped his hand away. In your dreams, Your Grace. He laughed, a genuine rough sound that startled us both. So, do we have a deal? I thought of my sister, pale and weak in her hospital bed. I thought of the debt collectors calling my phone every hour. I stood up and extended my hand. Deal, but I have conditions. Of course you do. 1. No throwing things at me. 2. You continue your physical therapy. 3. We sleep in separate rooms. Adrian took my hand. His grip was warm and firm. He pulled me slightly closer, closing the distance between us. Agreed on 1 and 2, he said. But 3 is impossible. The staff talks. If we sleep apart, the rumors will start. You sleep in my room. What? No. In my room, he clarified. Not in my bed. It's a big suite. There's a chaise lounge. Or you can have the bed and I'll take the floor. I don't care. But the door stays locked at night and we come out together in the morning. I glared at him. Fine. But if you try anything, I won't. He promised, his eyes dancing with amusement. I prefer my women willing. He lifted my hand to his lips. He didn't kiss the back of my hand like a gentleman. He turned it over and pressed a kiss to the sensitive skin of my palm. His lips were hot. His stubble scratched my skin. A jolt of electricity shot up my arm. Welcome to the family, Duchess, he whispered against my skin. The next few days were a whirlwind. The contract was signed. The lawyers were silenced. And then the transformation began. You can't wear those rags, Adrian declared, eyeing my nurse's uniform. If you are to be a duchess, you must look the part. He summoned a team of tailors from London. They descended on the castle like a swarm of locusts, measuring, pinning, and draping me in silks and velvets. "Red," Adrian commanded from his chair in the corner, sipping whiskey as he watched me stand on a podium in my underwear. "She looks good in red." I blushed, covering myself with a robe. "Can you not watch?" "I'm paying for it." He shrugged. "I want to see the merchandise." "I am not merchandise." "You are my investment," he corrected. "Turn around." I turned. The tailor draped a crimson silk gown over me. It was strapless with a corset bodice that pushed my breasts up and cinched my waist tight. The skirt flowed like liquid fire. Adrian went silent. He set his glass down. He stood up and walked over to me. He waved the tailor away. "Leave us." The tailor scurried out. We were alone in the dressing room, surrounded by mirrors. Adrian stood behind me. I watched his reflection. He was looking at me with a hunger that terrified and thrilled me. He reached out and placed his hands on my bare shoulders. His touch was possessive. "You look," he started, his voice rough. "Like a fraud," I suggested. "Like a queen," he finished. He moved his hands down my arms, then to my waist. He pulled me back against his chest. I could feel the solid wall of his body, the heat radiating through his shirt. "This dress," he murmured, his lips close to my ear. "It's dangerous." "Why?" "Because it makes me want to rip it off." My breath hitched. "Adrian." "Relax," he whispered, his hands tightening on my waist. "It's just acting right. We have to practice. Tonight is the engagement ball. Everyone will be watching. They need to believe I can't keep my hands off you." He turned me around to face him. He looked down at me, his eyes searching mine. "Can you do it, Elena? Can you pretend to love the beast?" I looked at the scar on his face. I looked at the loneliness in his eyes. I reached up and touched his cheek. "I'm a very good actress," I whispered. He leaned down. He didn't kiss me. He brushed his nose against mine, a gesture of intimacy that felt more profound than a kiss. "Good," he breathed, "because tonight we go to war." The ballroom was filled with the elite of British society. Diamonds glittered under the chandeliers. Champagne flowed like water. When we walked in, the room went silent. Adrian was in a tuxedo, leaning heavily on his cane, but looking more powerful than any man there. I was on his arm in the red dress, wearing the Blackwood family diamonds around my neck. Whispers erupted. "That's her, the nurse. She's stunning." "He looks tamed." We navigated the shark tank. Adrian was protective, his arm never leaving my waist. He introduced me to lords and ladies, his voice filled with pride. "My fiancée, Elena. She saved my life." He played the part perfectly, the doting, obsessed lover. But then the music changed. A waltz. "Dance with me," he said. "You can't dance," I whispered. "Your leg." "I can manage one dance for my future wife." He led me to the floor. He discarded his cane, handing it to a footman. He took me in his arms. He was strong. He held me up, taking the weight off his bad leg. We moved together, slow and steady. "They're staring," I whispered, burying my face in his shoulder. "Let them stare," he growled. "Let them see that you are mine." His hand slid down my back, resting lower than was proper. It was possessive, dominant. "Adrian," I warned. "Hush," he said. "Smile. You're happy." I looked up at him and smiled. And in that moment, spinning under the lights, held by the most dangerous man in England, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't acting anymore. And then the doors opened. A woman walked in. She was blonde, beautiful, and wearing white like a bride. The music faltered. Adrian stiffened in my arms. His face went pale. "Isabella," he breathed. The princess who broke his heart. She walked straight towards us, a smile on her lips that didn't reach her cold blue eyes. "Adrian, darling," she cooed, ignoring me completely. "I heard the news. I just had to come and see the little mouse who thinks she can fill my shoes." The war had begun. The music in the ballroom didn't stop, but it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. All eyes turned to the woman standing in the doorway. Princess Isabella. She was a vision in white silk, diamonds dripping from her ears like frozen tears. She walked towards us with the grace of a predatory cat, her eyes fixed solely on Adrian. I felt Adrian's arm tighten around my waist, his fingers digging into the fabric of my red dress. His body was rigid, a wall of tension against mine. "Adrian, darling," Isabella cooed, her voice carrying over the whispers of the crowd. She stopped right in front of us, ignoring me completely, as if I were a piece of furniture. "I heard the news. I just had to come and congratulate you." She reached out and placed a hand on his chest right over his heart. It was a possessive gesture, intimate and bold. Although I must say I was surprised. "You getting married after everything we promised each other?" Adrian stepped back, breaking her touch. His face was a mask of cold fury. "You lost the right to speak of promises when you left me in that hospital bed, Isabella. What are you doing here?" "I came to save you," she said, her eyes widening with fake innocence. She finally turned her gaze to me. She looked me up and down, her lip curling in distaste. "From making a mistake? Really?" "Adrian, a nurse. Look at her hands. They're rough. She smells of antiseptic and poverty. Is this really the best you could do?" The room went silent. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, but I refused to look away. I remembered what Adrian had said. "You are a queen." "My hands save lives, Your Highness," I said, my voice steady and clear. "What do your hands do besides spend money you didn't earn?" A gasp rippled through the crowd. Isabella's eyes narrowed into slits. "You insolent little peasant," she hissed, stepping closer. "Do you know who I am? I could ruin you with a snap of my fingers." "And I could fix your nose with a snap of mine," I retorted, smiling sweetly. "It looks a little crooked, a bad job perhaps." Isabella gasped, her hand flying to her face. Adrian let out a short, sharp bark of laughter. He pulled me closer, pressing a kiss to my temple. "She's right, Isabella," he said, his voice dripping with dark amusement. "You should have that looked at. Now, if you'll excuse us, I believe this is our dance." He turned his back on her, signaling the orchestra to continue. We spun away, leaving Isabella fuming in the center of the dance floor. "You are dangerous," Adrian whispered in my ear as we waltzed. "Insulting a princess. You have a death wish." "She insulted me first," I said, looking up at him. "And you didn't seem to mind." "Mind?" Adrian's eyes burned into mine. I wanted to applaud. No one has ever spoken to her like that. "You were magnificent." For the rest of the evening, we were inseparable. We drank champagne, laughed at the stuffy aristocrats, and danced until my feet ached. But I could feel Isabella's eyes on us, burning holes in my back. She wasn't done. She was just waiting. Later that night, after the guests had left, the adrenaline faded, leaving behind exhaustion and pain. Adrian collapsed onto the sofa in his private study, groaning as he massaged his bad leg. The dancing had taken its toll. "You overdid it," I scolded, gently fetching my medical bag. "You need to rest it." "It was worth it," he grunted, closing his eyes. "Did you see her face? Priceless." "Sit still," I ordered, kneeling in front of him. "I need to check the stitches." He opened his eyes and looked down at me. In the dim light of the fireplace, the arrogance was gone. He just looked tired and something else. Hungry. "You look beautiful tonight, Elena," he murmured. "That dress. It should be illegal." I flushed, focusing on unbuttoning his trousers to access his calf. My hands were shaking slightly. This was different from our usual sessions. Tonight the lines were blurred. We weren't just patient and nurse. We were partners. I peeled back the bandage. The skin was red and inflamed from the exertion. "It's irritated," I said, applying a cooling gel. My fingers moved in slow, soothing circles. Adrian hissed in a breath. "That feels good." His hand moved, resting on my shoulder. His thumb traced the line of my collarbone, sending shivers down my spine. "Elena," he whispered. I looked up. His face was inches from mine. The firelight danced in his eyes, turning them into pools of molten gold. "Why did you defend me?" he asked. "With Isabella. You could have stayed silent." "She hurt you," I said simply. "I don't like it when people hurt my patients." "Is that all I am?" he asked, his voice rough. "A patient?" He leaned closer. His hand moved from my shoulder to my neck, his fingers tangling in the hair at the nape of my neck. He tilted my head back. "Because tonight," he murmured, his gaze dropping to my lips, "tonight, you felt like mine." My heart hammered against my ribs. Adrian, the contract. Burn the contract, he growled. He lowered his head. Our breaths mingled. I could smell the whiskey on his breath, the expensive cologne on his skin. I closed my eyes, waiting, wanting. Crash! The sound of shattering porcelain echoed from the hallway. We jumped apart. Adrian cursed, his face twisting in anger. What the hell was that? We rushed to the door. In the hallway, a maid was on her knees picking up the pieces of a Ming vase. She looked terrified. I'm so sorry, Your Grace, she cried. I didn't mean to. She pushed me. Who? Adrian demanded. The maid pointed down the hall. A figure was disappearing around the corner. A figure in a white dress. Isabella. She's staying here, I asked, horrified. My grandmother invited her, Adrian spat. She's in the East Wing. He turned to me, his expression hardening. Go to bed, Elena. Lock your door. Isabella doesn't play fair. If she's breaking things, it means she's plotting. I'm not afraid of her, I said. You should be, he warned. She knows my weaknesses, and right now, I think she knows you are one of them. He didn't kiss me goodnight. He turned and limped away towards the East Wing, leaving me standing in the cold hallway. But the heat of his touch still burned on my skin, and the warning in his eyes haunted me. The next morning, the war escalated. I came down to breakfast to find Isabella sitting at the head of the table, my seat. She was wearing a silk robe that left little to the imagination, sipping coffee as if she owned the place. Good morning, nurse. She smiled sweetly. Coffee? Or do you prefer something cheaper, tea, perhaps? I'll have coffee, I said, taking the seat to her right. And that's my chair. Possession is 9/10 of the law, darling. She laughed. Besides, Adrian prefers me here. We have so much to discuss. Old times. Adrian walked in then. He stopped when he saw us. Isabella, get out of that chair, he said calmly. Oh, don't be a bore, Adrian, she pouted. I was just telling Elena about our trip to Venice. Remember the gondola ride, the way you proposed to me under the Bridge of Sighs? She twisted the knife. She wanted me to know that she had been first, that she had history. Adrian ignored her. He walked to the sideboard, poured a cup of coffee, and brought it to me. He placed it in front of me, then leaned down and kissed my cheek. Good morning, my love, he said, loud enough for Isabella to hear. Did you sleep well? Better than some, I said, glancing at Isabella. I didn't have nightmares about being a home wrecker. Isabella slammed her cup down. You little... Enough, Adrian said, sitting down. Isabella, why are you really here? I told you, she said, composing herself. I want you back. I made a mistake, Adrian. I was young, scared, but I never stopped loving you. She reached across the table, trying to take his hand. Adrian pulled away. You don't love me, he said coldly. You love the title. You heard about the inheritance clause, didn't you? You know I need a wife to keep the money. And you chose her, Isabella pointed at me. A nobody. Adrian, be reasonable. Marry me. We are equals. We look good together. We can rule society. I don't want to rule society, Adrian said, looking at me. I want someone who stays when the storm hits. You ran Isabella. Elena walked into the fire. She's using you, Isabella shrieked. She's a gold digger. I bet she's charging you by the hour. She's worth every penny, Adrian shot back. Is that so? Isabella stood up, her eyes flashing with malice. We'll see how much she's worth when the truth comes out. What truth? I asked. Oh, you'll see, she smirked. I did some digging, Elena, into your little sister. Did you know the hospital has a new experimental treatment? Very expensive, very exclusive. My blood ran cold. Leave my sister out of this. I can get her on the list, Isabella whispered. Or, I can make sure she never gets treatment anywhere in Europe. My father sits on the medical board. One call and your sister is blacklisted. I stood up my chair, scraping loudly against the floor. You monster. I'm a princess, she corrected. And I get what I want. Leave him, Elena. Break the engagement. Leave Blackwood tonight. And your sister gets the treatment. Stay, and she dies. She turned and swept out of the room, leaving a trail of poison in her wake. I looked at Adrian. He looked murderous. She's bluffing, he said. She's not. I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. She's powerful, Adrian. You know she is. I'm powerful too, he growled, standing up and coming to me. He grabbed my shoulders. Do not listen to her. I will protect your sister. I will buy the damn hospital if I have to. You can't fight her father, I said, pulling away. I can't risk it, Adrian. It's my sister's life. And you're my life, he shouted. The words hung in the air. He froze, realizing what he had said. What? I breathed. He looked at me, his mask crumbling. I said, You're my wife. My future wife. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. I need to make some calls. Don't do anything stupid, Elena. Don't leave. He stormed out, heading to his study. I stood there alone in the breakfast room. The coffee was cold. The threat was real. Isabella had played her ace. She knew I would sacrifice anything for my sister, even him. But she didn't know one thing. I wasn't just a nurse anymore. I was the woman who had tamed the beast, and I wasn't going down without a fight. I went to the library. I needed a plan. If Isabella wanted to play dirty, I would play dirty too. I found Mrs. Higgins dusting the shelves. Mrs. Higgins, I said. Isabella's room. Does she keep a diary? Mrs. Higgins looked around, then winked. She keeps a tablet, dear, locked in her safe, but say the code is her birthday. And when is she out? She has a spa appointment at noon. Perfect, I said. I think it's time I did some cleaning in the East Wing. I wasn't going to leave. I was going to find the dirt on Isabella. I was going to find out why she really came back, because it wasn't for love. It was for something else, something dark. And when I found it, I was going to destroy her. At noon, while Isabella was getting a facial, I sneaked into the East Wing. Her room smelled of cloying roses. I found the safe hidden behind a painting, cliché but effective. I typed in her birthday. It beeped open. Inside there was no tablet, just a stack of letters. I opened one. It was from a bank in Switzerland. Final notice. Outstanding debt, £5,000. I gasped. Isabella wasn't rich. She was broke. Her family had lost everything in bad investments. That's why she came back. She didn't want Adrian. She wanted the Blackwood fortune to save herself from bankruptcy. I grabbed the letters. This was it. The proof. I turned to leave, triumph surging through my veins. The door clicked open. I froze. Isabella stood there. She wasn't at the spa. She was smiling. And she wasn't alone. Two large men stood behind her. Did you really think it would be that easy, nurse? She asked, closing the door. You're broke, I said, holding up the letters. You're a fraud. And you're a thief, she countered. Breaking and entering, stealing private documents. Tisk, tisk. Adrian hates thieves. She snapped her fingers. The men lunged. I tried to run, but they were too fast. One grabbed my arms, pinning them behind my back. The other snatched the letters from my hand. Isabella walked up to me. She slapped me, hard. The taste of copper filled my mouth. Put her to sleep, she ordered. One of the men pressed a cloth over my mouth. It smelled of chemicals, chloroform. I struggled, holding my breath, but the darkness crept in at the edges of my vision. The last thing I saw was Isabella's cruel smile. Sweet dreams, Duchess. I woke up with a splitting headache. My mouth was dry, my limbs heavy. I was in a bed. But not my bed. The sheets were silk. The room was familiar. Adrian's room. I tried to sit up, but my head spun. Why was I here? Then I realized I wasn't alone in the bed. A man was sleeping next to me. He was naked. I screamed. I scrambled back, falling off the bed onto the cold floor. The door burst open. Adrian stood there. He was wearing his riding clothes, looking windblown and shattered. Behind him stood Isabella, looking shocked, fake shock. Oh my God, Adrian, look! Adrian stared at me. He stared at the man in the bed, a stranger, a handsome stable boy who looked confused and drugged. Elena, Adrian whispered. His voice was broken glass. No, I gasped, pulling the sheet around my naked body. Wait, why was I naked? Adrian, it's not what it looks like. She drugged me. Drugged you? Isabella cried. We heard noises moaning. We came to check on you because you missed lunch. She walked over to the bed and picked up a bottle of wine from the nightstand. Look, Adrian, they've been drinking your vintage collection. Celebrating, I assume. Adrian walked into the room. He didn't look at the man. He looked at me. His eyes, usually so full of fire, were dead, cold, empty. "I trusted you," he said quietly. "I opened my home to you. I protected you." "Adrian, please." I crawled towards him, reaching for his boot. "She set me up. I found letters. She's broke. She needs your money." "Stop lying," Isabella shouted. "She's desperate, Adrian. Look at her. She's a commoner who couldn't handle the pressure. She needed comfort, so she took it where she could find it." Adrian looked down at me. "Is it true? Did you go into her room?" "Yes, but you stole from a guest in my house." "I was trying to find the truth." "The truth is right here," he roared, gesturing to the naked man. "You are a liar, Elena, just like everyone else." He turned away. "Get them out of here." "Adrian," I screamed, "lock her in the West Tower." He ordered the guards who had appeared, "Until I decide what to do with her." "No, you can't do this." The guards grabbed me. They dragged me out of the room past a smiling Isabella. I was thrown into the tower room, a cold, dusty attic with a single barred window. The door slammed shut. The lock turned. I was a prisoner in the castle I was supposed to rule. I sank to the floor sobbing. Not because I was trapped, but because of the look in Adrian's eyes. He hadn't just been angry. He had been destroyed. I had broken the beast's heart, even though I hadn't done anything. 2 days passed. No one came. No food. No water. Just the cold wind howling through the cracks in the stone. I grew weak. The fever from the stress and dehydration set in. I huddled in the corner, wrapped in a dusty curtain, shivering. I hallucinated. I saw my sister. I saw Adrian. "Why didn't you fight harder?" the hallucination of Adrian asked. "I tried," I whispered to the empty room. "I tried." On the third night, a storm rolled in. Thunder shook the tower. Lightning illuminated the room in flashes of white terror. I heard a noise at the door. Not the heavy tread of a guard. A soft scratching. The lock clicked. The door creaked open. A figure stood there holding a lantern. It wasn't Adrian. It was Mrs. Higgins, the housekeeper. "Oh, child," she whispered, rushing to me. She had a tray of bread and water. "Drink this, quickly." I gulped down the water, choking on it. "Mrs. Higgins, you have to believe me." "I know, dear. I know," she soothed, stroking my hair. "I saw her. Isabella. She paid the stable boy. I saw the money exchange hands behind the garden shed." "You did?" Hope flared in my chest. "Did you tell Adrian?" "He won't listen," she said sadly. "He's locked himself in his study. He's drinking again, smashing things. He's grieving, Elena. He thinks you betrayed him, and it's killed the man he was becoming." "I have to talk to him." I tried to stand, but my legs gave out. "You can't," Mrs. Higgins said. "Isabella is with him. She's poisoning his mind. She convinced him to sign the marriage papers with her tomorrow morning, to save the inheritance." "Tomorrow?" I gasped. "Yes. And once they are married, she's going to have you arrested for theft. She planted her diamond necklace in your bag." I closed my eyes. It was checkmate. Isabella had won. "You have to go," Mrs. Higgins said, pressing a bundle of clothes and a wad of cash into my hands. "There's a service entrance in the kitchen. Leave tonight. Go back to London. Save yourself." "I can't leave him," I whispered. "She'll destroy him. Once she has the money, she'll make his life hell. Or worse, she might kill him." Mrs. Higgins looked at me with pity. "He made his choice, Elena. He chose to believe the lie. Then I have to make him see the truth." I stood up, using the wall for support. The water had given me a burst of strength. "I'm not leaving," I said, my voice gaining steel. "I'm going to stop the wedding." "How, you're locked in a tower?" "Not anymore," I said, looking at the open door. "Thank you, Mrs. Higgins." I hugged the old woman. "Be careful," she whispered. "He's dangerous when he's hurt." I slipped out of the tower and into the shadows of the hallway. I knew the castle better than Isabella. I knew the secret passages the servants used. I crept towards the study. I could hear voices. Isabella's voice. "It's for the best, Adrian. She was trash. We belong together." Adrian's voice. Slurred, heavy. "Just sign the damn papers." I peeked through the keyhole. Adrian was sitting at his desk, a bottle of whiskey half empty in front of him. He looked like a wreck. Unshaven, disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed. Isabella stood over him, a pen in her hand, a predatory smile on her lips. The marriage license lay on the desk. "Sign here, darling," she purred, "and we can put this whole ugly mess behind us." Adrian picked up the pen. His hand hovered over the paper. I couldn't wait any longer. I didn't have a weapon. I didn't have the letters. But I had one thing. I remembered the stable boy, the one in the bed. He had a distinctive tattoo on his neck, a snake, and I remembered seeing that same tattoo on a man I passed in the village pub weeks ago. He wasn't just a stable boy, he was a known hustler. I kicked the door open. Bam! It slammed against the wall. Adrian's head snapped up. Isabella dropped the pen. I stood in the doorway, dirty hair matted, wearing the rags Mrs. Higgins gave me, but I felt like a warrior. "Don't sign it, Adrian," I said, my voice raspy but loud. "You!" Isabella shrieked. "Guards! No guards!" I said, walking into the room. "Just us and the truth." Adrian stood up, swaying slightly. "How did you get out?" "It doesn't matter," I said, ignoring Isabella and looking straight at him. "Ask her, Adrian. Ask her about the debt." "What debt?" He frowned. "The £5 million she owes to the Swiss bank," I said. "Ask her why she came back. It wasn't for love. It was because she's broke. She needs your money to pay off her loans." Isabella turned pale. "She's lying. She's crazy. Look at her." "And ask her." I continued, stepping closer. "How much she paid the boy with the snake tattoo to get into my bed. Was it £500 or 1,000? Adrian froze. "Snake tattoo." "The boy," I said. "He has a snake tattoo on his neck. I saw it when I woke up." "How would I know that if I was busy cheating on you I was unconscious, Adrian?" Adrian looked at Isabella. He saw the fear in her eyes, the panic. He looked at the pen in his hand, then at the papers. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice sober now. "Are you broke, Isabella?" I had some bad luck," she stammered. "But that doesn't mean I don't love you." "Love." Adrian laughed, a cold, terrifying sound. "You sold me for a title once. Now you're selling yourself for a bailout." He ripped the marriage license in half, then in half again. "Get out," he said to Isabella. "But Adrian, get out!" he roared, throwing the whiskey bottle at the wall. It shattered just like the glass on our first day. "Before I forget that I'm a gentleman and throw you out the window." Isabella fled, screaming for her luggage. The room went silent. Adrian stood there, breathing heavily. He turned to me. I stood my ground, though my legs were shaking. He looked at me, at my dirty face, at the bruises on my arms from the guards. "Elena," he whispered. You didn't believe me," I said, tears finally spilling over. "You locked me in a tower." "I was jealous," he admitted, taking a step towards me. "I was insane with jealousy. The thought of you with another man. It broke me." "That's not an excuse," I said. "Love is trust, Adrian. And you didn't trust me." I turned to leave. "I'm going home. My sister, I'll find another way." "No," he said. He moved faster than I thought possible with his bad leg. He caught me at the door. He didn't grab me. He fell to his knees, the Duke of Blackwood on his knees in front of a nurse. He wrapped his arms around my waist, burying his face in my stomach. "Don't go," he begged, his voice muffled against my clothes. "Please, don't leave me in the dark again. I'm sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I'll crawl if I have to. Just stay." I looked down at him. The proud, arrogant man, humbled by love and regret. I reached down and touched his hair. "Get up, Adrian," I whispered. He looked up, hope warring with fear in his eyes. "We have a lot of work to do," I said. "Starting with that leg. You've been neglecting your exercises." He let out a shuddering breath and pulled me down to him. He kissed me. It was a kiss of apology, of worship, of a promise that would last a lifetime. "I love you," he murmured against my lips. "My nurse, my savior, my duchess." "I love you too," I said. "You beast." Outside, the storm finally broke, giving way to a clear, star-filled night, and in the West Wing, for the first time in years, there was light.